What up, beautiful babies? It's the Madden Curse. We are in week 11. We're going to do some matchups, some predictions. Going to try to get them all right. We'll see. Only done that once this year. Had 10 chances to do it. Let's take a quick peek at the rankings, updated rankings for week 11. We'll start at the top this time. Brent, number 1. Number 2, Fat. Number 3, Dan. Number 4, Scott. Number 5, Jason. Number 6, JT. In case you're wondering, those are the top 6 currently in the playoffs. Seating wise, it's a little different, I think, but pretty close. Number 7, Marshall. Number 8, Lando. Number 9, Jordan. Number 10, Frank. Number 11, Alex. Number 12, Sweet Tea. All right, let's look at these matchups. The first matchup is myself versus Sweet Tea. Um, Fat's matchup of the week. As Fat said in the chat, he doesn't go off of things like, records and standings and implications and, how it could affect the league so much as personal relationships, which I actually like that. We've got some fun stuff out of it. We got the rent bowl. That was pretty cool. We saw brother kill a brother. That was pretty cool. So I like it. I like Fat's games of the weeks. I'm gonna still go try to find another game of the week just because this is a spicy week and there are implications out there. Lots of them. Let's get implicated. Um, this matchup, I am favored to win 140 to 103. I'm 4-6. T's 2-8. Congratulations to T. He did get his second victory last year. Um, it was a close matchup. Sometimes all you need is the right matchup of the week and just enough points to get by, and that's what the F he did. Unfortunately, I don't know if that's gonna happen this week. Like I said, I'm favored by about 40 points. Two of my guys might come out due to injuries and blizzards that they're playing in, which may drop my projections down about 20 points. But we still got Justin Fields versus Atlanta, Josh Jacobs versus Denver, Joe Mixon versus Pittsburgh, Amon St. Brown versus the G. Amari Cooper versus Buffalo. That's the snow game I'm referencing. Travis Kelsey versus the Chargers. Devontae Adams versus Denver. He's got a rib injury and he's got a matchup with Patrick Surtain, who has been one of the top lockdown corners in the league. As much as I love J.C. Horn, they be talking about Surtain like he's the next guy. So I don't know, man. Should we have drafted Horn? Should we have drafted Surtain? Should we have drafted Justin Fields, man? These are gonna be some questions that hopefully get answered sooner than later. And hopefully Horn's the guy, but it's tough to say right now. On T side, Dak Prescott playing the Vikings. DeAndre Swift versus the Giants. Isaiah Pacheco starting running back of the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Chargers. T. Higgins versus Pittsburgh. Cortland Sutton versus the Las Vegas Raiders. T.J. Hawkinson versus the Dallas Cowboys. Deontay Johnson versus the Cincinnati Bengals. While I do think T has some pretty good matchups here, um, and I do think this matchup could be closer than people think. I think Pacheco, he's playing the Chargers. Chargers have an awful run defense. The Chiefs have a great offense. They get into the red zone a lot. They could give Pacheco the ball a lot. Pacheco could get 2, 3 touchdowns. I mean, Pacheco could have a 20, 30-point game without really even putting too much work into the ground. You know what I mean? So that's a big matchup. Swift just hasn't been playing right I mean, they're giving him like 10 touches a game and then the rest goes to Jamal Williams. So Swift, he's probably, man, he's he's probably more frustrating than Najee at this point just because you held Swift with the anticipation that you were going to get a 20, 25 point running back, top 5 potential, easy top 10, and then he comes back and he gets 8 carries a freaking game. Whereas Najee, you've kind of just seen what he's done all year. I mean, at this point, if you're starting him, Hey, you want that 8 to 10 points. So Swift definitely probably the leading candidate for disappointment of the year. Uh, but we'll see. I hope I don't necessarily want to come back this game and have a great game, but I hope he finishes the season strong. Um, outside, like I said, on T's bench, Godwin's on a bye. Week 11 is probably the second biggest bye week outside of Week 14. Godwin's on a bye. He's got Garrett Wilson on his bench. He might make it into the lineup. They are playing the Patriots, which is a tough matchup. On my side, my only buy is Rashad White. Like I said, if I have some, if Devontae Adams was to go down, we're probably taking a shot on Darius Slayton. Maybe Kadarius Toney alert. I don't know. Who knows? Um, but yes, first matchup, I'm picking Lando over T. Second matchup, this is a big one. I think this is probably going to be what I would say the matchup of the week. Dan versus Brent, number 1 versus number 3. Projections are close. 119 for Brent to 116 for Dan. Let's take a look at the matchups. On Brent's side, Patrick Mahomes versus the Chargers. Derrick Henry versus the Packers on Thursday. This is where it gets interesting, and we can see bye week is affecting some people. Jerick McKinnon, questionable. Juju Smith-Schuster, questionable. Devonta Smith, questionable. Mark Andrews, questionable. Chris Olave in the flex. On Dan's side, Kirk Cousins, Kirk Thuggins versus the Dallas Cowboys. 4:25 p.m. game, so should blow up. Damian Pierce versus the Commanders. Ramondre Stevenson versus the Jets. Justin Jefferson versus the Cowboys. He's questionable. CeeDee Lamb versus the Vikings. Taysom Hill versus the Rams. Hey, man, Dan keeps throwing him out there. He's either going to hit for 30 points or half a point. So, I respect it. Gabe Davis in the flex. He's actually kind of similar too, right? He's going to get you, 2 or 3 touchdowns, or he's going to get you, one catch, 10 yards. Um, let's check out bye season. Kenneth Walker on Dan's side is on a bye. Travis Etienne is on bye. So 2 of his top 4 running backs, um, probably his 2 best running backs, I would say, on bye. And then Brent's side, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, the number one, the number one wide receiver duo in the league. I mean, they're one and there's not a better 1-2. Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb is close, and you might say that they are, but if you go look at the stats, they're not. Not this season. It's Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Um, This is a tough one. I mean, we got a lot of guys on bye. 4 guys, big guys on bye. Half of Brent's lineup is questionable. I saw Juju last week. I don't know if he's coming back. Andrews has been on and off for weeks at this point. Because of that, I'm going to lean towards Dan. He's definitely got the edge on running back. Even though Brent does have Henry versus the Packers. After that, he's got McKinnon, who's questionable. And he's a receiving back, which is great for PPR, right? But Ramondre Stevenson is definitely an upgrade there. Henry is an upgrade over Pierce, but I like the duo of Pierce and Stevenson over Henry and McKinnon. Now, Henry could go up and put 40 points and kind of mess all this up, right? That's a Derrick Henry move, baby. And they are playing the Packers, who don't really have a great run defense. But the edge this week is going to go to Dan for wide receivers. If Jefferson's playing, Jefferson and CD versus Juju and Devontae, you should think Jefferson would have the edge there. Um, so I am picking Dan to win. I'm picking Brent to go on a small little losing streak here. Just a small one. But we're going with Dan. Next matchup, JT versus Jason. This was a tough matchup. I went back and forth on. Um, JT's projected for 102. Jason's projected for 87. He's got Kyler Murray in his lineup, and they got him projected for 0 right now, so that's why his score is so low. Currently, we'll see if he has an option to replace him. Kyler Murray versus the Niners, Miles Sanders versus the Colts, Antonio Gibson versus Houston, DeAndre Hopkins versus the Niners, DJ Moore versus Baltimore, Foster Moreau versus Denver, Terry McLaurin in the flex versus Houston, JT, Justin Herbert versus the Chiefs, Ezekiel Elliott versus the Vikings, Donta Foreman versus the Ravens, Adam Thielen versus Cowboys, Tyler Boyd versus Pittsburgh, Dalton Schultz versus Minnesota, Curtis Samuel in the flex versus Houston. Um, Zeke and Samuel are questionable as well as Murray, as I mentioned. JT side, Mike Evans, Leonard Fournette are on buys. Um, Gus Edwards is questionable. Damian Harris is on his bench. I think he's just back, but he's the backup at this point. On Jason's side, he's got Colt McCoy, who's also questionable, who is his only option to swap for Kyler Murray if needed. Rondale Moore is on the bench. Tua Tagovailoa is on a bye. Just looking at it, this matchup's kind of ugly this week, but I'm going to lean into JT. Um, Mostly because Kyler Murray's hurt and the backup Jason has is hurt. um, but uh, we're just gonna call that one a gut one, and there really ain't too much else to say about it, so we're just gonna move on. JT, I'm picking you. Next matchup, Fat versus Marshall. This is another pretty good game for the week. Fat's in second. Marshall's seventh, clinging, trying to get back into the top six. Projections: Fat 125, Marshall 110. Fat's got Joe Burrow versus Pittsburgh, Austin Eckler versus Chiefs, Saquon Barkley versus Detroit Lions, Darnell Mooney versus Atlanta, Devin Duvernay versus the Panthers. Trader is Fat. He just looks for players that play in the Panthers. He even likes our secondary. You believe this? Now we're gonna start an outside wide receiver. Mm, mm, mm. You see that man right there? You see him? Gerald Everett, questionable, playing the Chiefs. David Montgomery playing the Falcons. Montgomery's got to be the luckiest running back in the world. He's been getting outplayed all freaking season. And then the better running back gets hurt, so now he gets the starting role. I mean, Justin Fields is still probably the starting running back, but Montgomery's probably going to get 15, 20 touches, and with his little 3.2 yards per carry, he'll probably fall into the end zone once. Fats bye season, Christian Kirk, Tyler Lockett, top two wide receivers. Um, Nothing really else. Got some guys on buys that don't matter. Um, Marshall, Jalen Hurts versus Indy, Alvin Kamara versus the Rams, James Robinson versus the Patriots, Deebo Samuel versus the Cardinals, AJ Brown versus the Colts, he's questionable, Tyler Higbee versus the Saints, C-Pat, Cordell Patterson versus the Bears. On his bench, nobody on bye. Um, George Kittle, Kenyon Drake, probably the biggest names on the bench, and potentially Drake London. Drake London's been so hit or miss. He's had like one good game in the last 6 weeks, so definitely understand why he's on the bench. Um, Drake, it's kind of a coin flip, I think, with Robinson. He had a huge game last week. Gus Edwards is supposed to be back, so that's cutting into the timeshare more than likely. Edwards was the starter before he got hurt, was my understanding. And then George Kittle, I mean, I think I would probably lean to Higbee too right now. There's no Cooper Cup. Somebody's got to catch passes, so why not Higbee? I do. I I think this matchup will be closer than the projections. I would not be surprised if Marshall wins. Having said that, I'm gonna pick Fat. Um, just Burrow, Eckler, Barkley. I mean, if those guys are on and they pop off, Saquon's playing Detroit, should be a lot of points. Eckler's playing Kansas City. I mean, they're not like renowned defensively. Herbert fucking loves checking down to him, so he could have 10 catches in this game. I don't know. And then Burrow, I mean, he's a wild boy. 40 points, you know. I do think the Eagles are going to be trying to avenge last week's loss, so I think it hurts. And AJ, if he's playing, are going to try to put up a lot of points. Um, but they gotta knock out that big three. Again, I would not be surprised if Marshall wins, because outside of those three, the rest of Fast lineup is kind of dookie. Outside of Montgomery, because Herbert is hurt, so um, Marshall's definitely got a puncher's shot in this one. But I'm gonna give the edge to Fat. Uh, Second to last matchup of the week: Jordan versus Alex. Jordan's 4-6. Alex is 3-7. Alex has a 112 projection to Jordan's 93. Jordan's got Lamar Jackson versus the Panthers, Najee Harris versus the Bengals, Aaron Jones versus the Titans, Michael Pittman versus Philly, DeAndre Carter versus Chiefs. DeAndre Carter is questionable. Greg Dulcich playing the Raiders. Pat F in the flex playing the Bengals. Not often you see two tight ends in a lineup. Russell Wilson on Alex's side playing the Raiders. Dalvin Cook versus Dallas, Nick Chubb versus Buffalo, Alan Lazard versus Tennessee, Brandon Ayuk at Arizona, Kyle Pitts, Cincinnati, James Conner, San Francisco. It's funny. Russell Wilson was my original play for Week 11 when I had Tom Brady. That was his bye week. Obviously, Justin Fields came into my life, and we didn't have to go down that road anymore. But I like this matchup. Russell Wilson's best game of the year came against the Las Vegas Raiders, like 25, 26, 27 points. Big game. I think he can do it again right here. So let's look at the benches. No, but Gino's on a bye. Raheem Mostert on a bye on Alex's side. He picked up Christian Watson, but he doesn't have the marbles to play him. Huh, interesting. Uh, on Jordan's side, we've got Jerry Jeudy on the bench. He's hurt. Jeff Wilson Jr. on a bye. Big player. Hefe. I'm going to say Alex is going to win this matchup. I mean, two tight ends in your lineups are kind of a red flag to begin with, and it ain't like it's Kelsey and Andrews. Um, We've, I mean, Jordan's team is Lamar Jackson and Aaron Jones at this point. Pittman has regained some value because Ryan is back. Najee, you can't trust. Aaron Jones is a little bit banged up as well. Lamar, I mean, he'll probably get 50 points playing the Panthers, but I don't know if the rest of the team can score 30 points. So I'm giving the edge to Alex on that one, and I'm gonna give Alex the lock of the week. He's gonna beat Jordan down. Unfortunately, there's not many bullets left in the lineup. Last matchup of the week: Scott versus Frank. Scott's 5-5. Frank's 4-6. It's 112 to 106 in favor of Scott for projections. Scott's got Josh Allen versus Cleveland, McCaffrey versus Arizona, Tony Pollard versus the Vikings, Keenan Allen in the lineup versus the Chiefs. We'll see if that lasts. Paris Campbell versus the Eagles. Dawson Knox versus the Browns. Jacoby Myers versus the Jets. And Frank's side, Tyler Heineke versus Houston. Devin Singletary versus the Panthers. Jonathan Taylor versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Stephon Diggs versus the Browns. Miko Hardman, questionable versus the Chargers. Robert Tonyan versus the Titans. Melvin Gordon alert in the flex versus the Raiders. On the bench, Frank's got Jamal Williams, who is questionable. Could see him go back if he's healthy. I mean, he's starting running back for the Lions, right? Also, Matthew Stafford is questionable. Not sure if he'll want to put him in or not. Honestly, Heinicke's been balling with his Bush Lights. On Scott's side, DK Metcalf is on a bye. CEH is on the bench. CEH has 0 points last week and he was healthy, so that makes sense. You don't put running backs in the lineup to score 0 points. I mean, at this point, he's a drop candidate or a flex or not a flex, a handcuff if you're hoping Pacheco goes down. I am. I'm gonna pick Scott. You know, he's 5-5. He just took out Brent. Josh Allen said he's playing. He don't give a F. So, Scott, you're my pick of the week. That's it for week 11. We'll be back on Tuesday for recaps and see how wrong I was. Love y'all. Be safe this weekend. Madden curse.